This week's episode is sponsored by Pelican.
You're listening to the B&H Photography Podcast. For over 40 years, B&H has been the professional source for photography, video, audio, and more. For your favorite gear, news, and reviews, visit us at bnh.com or download the B&H app to your iPhone or Android device. Now here's your host, Allan Weitz.
Greetings and welcome to the B&H Photography Podcast. My name is Allan Weitz.
And I'm Jill Waterman.
It's summer in the city, and do keep in mind, August 22nd is International Street Photography Day, not to mention Henry Cartier-Bresson's birthday. We're celebrating the occasion on this week's podcast by chatting with the street photography legend and Magnum photographer Bruce Gilden. We had the pleasure of speaking with Bruce at B&H's 2023 Depth of Field Conference, where he was a keynote speaker. In addition to discussing his trademark style of up-close, emotionally engaging, dirty flash depictions of real people on the move, we'll delve into Gilden's lucrative fashion photography assignments, his transition from black and white to color, the influence of police mugshots on his distinctive vision, and many other facets of this endlessly fascinating man. So without further ado, here's Bruce. Okay, we are at the B&H Depth of Field 2023 Imaging Conference, and we have sitting with us here across the black drape table, our keynote speaker, Bruce Gilden. It's delightful to have you here. We were speaking a little bit before the show. I told Bruce that his photographs are one of the few groups of photographs that actually make me shudder because they stop me in my tracks. The impact of your photographs, of the faces of people and the way you interpret it. I've seen a lot of portraits. You have a way of going through it a little bit differently that just sort of, again, as I told you earlier, your books make me shake, physically shake, and not too many pictures do that. That said, what are you going to be speaking about today? What's today's topic?
Myself.
Oh. And you do have a very interesting background. Now, you've been shooting for a long time now, for over 50 years,
yeah.
Easily?
Wait, since I'm 17 or 18.
Okay, that's two of us.
So that makes 58 years now.
Okay, you've got about 2 or 3 years on me. And we also used to prowl around the same alleys of Coney Island around the same time. So we have a little bit of a similar background there. How has your approach changed? How has your attitude changed from back when you would be going around Coney Island and all the other places you covered, as opposed to now? Because you're still doing portraits, you're still doing people.
Well, I think one can't do the same photograph for 50 years. If you look at people who are, were good photographers, if they continue to do the same imagery exactly the same way, it's not the same. You don't have the passion, you know how to do it. It's like you're doing it by rote.
You're on autopilot.
Yes, I always saw in black and white. So there came a point that New York, I used to say, was my lifetime work, okay? But now I don't really work the streets of New York for several reasons. Number one, I'm not stimulated as I was years ago, because how many years can you do the same subject or do it in the same way? You have to vary. So I started off without flash, and then I moved into flash, okay?
Right.
That's one change. Also, there are times when I didn't photograph for 3 or 4 or 5 months. I never picked up a camera, whether that's because I used to be a cocaine addict. So, that also meant that, I took time off because I was doing cocaine. I wasn't doing photographs.
Alternate research.
Yeah, well, it's part of who I am. I can't say I wish I didn't do it. I did it. So, you can't take back what you've done.
It's part of the narrative.
Yeah. So then eventually, I don't know, I can't tell you the exact year, but I started to say, wait a second, I'm really not interested in New York. Whereas before I would go to Haiti, I went to Japan, I went to, and if I had the money, I would have done that all the time, okay? Because you have to refresh yourself. You go somewhere else, even if you work in a similar way, you respond, there are different influences. People are a little different. The light is a little different. Everything is a little different. But I still took Bruce Gilden photographs wherever I went. So then I said, wait a second, let me try to do color and portraits, because the Facebook that you're alluding to, those are all people I've asked, okay? Mm-hmm. So I could go and spend all day, let's say, at the State Fair and do only 3 pictures, because there's only 3 people that I'm interested in photographing. So it becomes a lot of walking, I use my intuition, okay? And the thing is, there's once in a while you'll have a person who you say, wow, I hope they say yes, because that's going to be a wonderful picture. Most people don't fall into that category, okay? So you try, and then if they're in front of me and that doesn't work, I say, I'm sorry, you're too beautiful or whatever. I have a good gift of gab, even though I'm basically shy and I don't like to talk to people, but I am talkative. So the interesting thing is that a lot of people may not know is that I do a lot of fashion photography. I mean, I've done the lookbook for Gucci. This year I've done 3 backstage I was the only photographer allowed backstage for Balenciaga. I've done ads for Dolce & Gabbana. I've worked for Diesel. I do a lot of fashion. And the models, they look attractive, but it's a Bruce Gilden picture.
How do you separate that work from the work of going out into the streets that you're greatly known for? I mean, do you have to shift your attitude at all? Are you just going with the same thoughts? I'm saying
you go in with the same attitude, but the difference is that the fashion pictures don't have the depth that your pictures in the street have. They don't have the emotion, okay? But if I'll show some of the pictures today at the lecture, just only a few, okay? But the early fashion pictures, the first fashion job I had was when I was relatively new at Magnum, and David Strettle was there. They hired me to do a fashion because he said, you'd be great doing fashion. So it was all black and white, the fashion then.
Right.
And I liked it. Look, you get paid.
That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, getting paid.
Getting paid is a lovely thing.
It is, of course. And the more they pay, the better it is. No, but the thing is that, you spend a day with relatively intelligent people. You look at pretty women. But as we've gone along now, everything shifts to more and more color, though I have a fashion job coming up March 7th in black and white.
Are you relieved that it's black and white, or are you kind of disappointed it's black and white?
No, because every subject, for example, we were in Korea on a commission for Magnum doing fishermen, and I decided before we went, I'm going to do it in black and white. And I never looked back. In other words, the motorcycle guys, the book that just came out, The Circuit,
right.
That I decided I'm going to do in color. And it brought me back to previous times because the pictures are really close, but most of them are horizontal, not vertical. Okay, so I mean, every subject has its own level, and you have to be smart enough to feel what that level is for you, okay? Like people think, I don't claim to be an intellectual, but I'm very smart and I'm very logical, okay? I'm also somewhat of a toughie, okay? So
you've survived.
Because I know how to survive. But the thing is, each subject, I decide what I want to do. Like the one coming up March 7th, which is for a magazine called Middle Plane. It's going to be black and white, and we're going to do it in Manhattan or Brooklyn because I speak to the creative guy. And I suggested where I would like to do it. It's with women dressed relatively elegantly, eating sushi or pizza or whatever, and he wants my pictures that like a punch in the face. So we're going back to what I can do very well. Now, you have to understand something else. I'm 76. So as you get older, you're not as fast, okay? I'm still fast, but not as fast. Well, I used to be able to put the camera up to my eye like this with people coming at 300 miles an hour and see the whole frame. It's changed a little bit, okay? So you have to be smart enough to realize what you can do and what you can't do. So there are ways around this, okay? But that involves someone who has experience, that knows how to use her experience to get what they want to do. So the reason I started to do portraits like face is because of the fact that I wanted to do it 20 years ago, okay? But I'm very slow once I get the idea to do something and doing it, because I was influenced so much by mugshots. And it always fascinating to me that the mugshots, especially the black and white ones done in the early 20th century, whether it's France, but I relate most to the ones in America, okay? Because those are the characters. My father was a character. He was a gangster type, thick gray hair, cigars, pinky rings, it'll knock you out in 2 seconds.
Just about every father in Brooklyn. I know them well, yes.
Yeah, but my father was real.
Oh, okay.
That's the difference, not faux. He didn't have to hit me. I knew what would happen. So the combination, finally, I had to do something a little different. And I found the camera in Leica S. I used that with a 70 millimeter lens, okay? So the perspective is good. And it's so sharp that it's unbelievable. Okay. I mean, I can make 8 feet by 12 feet prints. And that's how they're supposed to be seen. The smaller size should be 40 by 60 inches. I had someone in Magnum tell me, oh, I don't like that book. I said, that's your opinion. Okay, that's fine. And then he saw the show at the Barbican, and he said, wow, those are really good. Because, you see every pore, and, you back up enough distance to see that at the right distance from the photograph. And to me, my people are all beautiful, okay? Because that's what I relate to. And I have a lot of soul in me. The original idea was people who were left behind, but they're not even left behind. No one even thinks about these people, you know? It's a shame. And, you know, those are my people. And it takes two to make those pictures. It takes that person and how I'm seeing them.
And you know how to approach them, which is a whole thing,
Yeah,
too.
but it's the same with the bikers. You know, the bikers, it's mostly black motorcycle clubs. And here I am, Jewish and everything, you know what I mean? And I'm in at 3 o'clock in the morning, and that's become my wife and I family. They're family to us now. I mean, literally family. My wife can go there 2 in the morning. I know she's safe. I know, you know, we care for them, and they care for us. Because our care is real.
How do you first approach a group of people like that?
Just be real. I didn't learn my stuff from a book. You know, I get tired of these people, intellectuals, that they learn everything from a book and they know everything that's going on in the world. They know shit, okay? You know, you learn by being out in the street.
But you also know when it's not a good idea to be there, too. And you have to be able to figure that one out.
But that's street knowledge. It's like I was just working in Israel, and the lady we had as a translator, well, first of all, she didn't speak Hebrew. I was laughing.
That's novel, okay.
No. And, you know, because supposedly everybody in Jerusalem speaks English. They don't, okay? Maybe in Tel Aviv, most people speak English, but not in Jerusalem. So there were times when she would say something, and I say, no. That's not what you say, you know? You don't say, can I take a portrait of you? You say, can I take a portrait of your face? Because some people might be overweight. You know, you use what's going to be positive for you and what you think is going to be positive for them. No one is correct all the time, okay? I make mistakes, you know, but I'm not afraid to try. And the other thing is that if everybody says you can't do it, and I want to do it, I'll figure out a way to do it. Because everybody's different. And if I want to do it, hopefully you'll see that, you know, I'm the person that you'll allow to do it.
Now, you also made mention of the fact that, if I'm not mistaken, you like using a shorter focal length. So you're not using a 70 millimeter, but...
No, that 70 quotes to a 42 and, you know, about 42 millimeter in...
Oh, that's right, because it's a medium format. I stand correct. Yeah. Okay, fine. So you are there. As opposed to shooting the same phases from a long distance away, because at that point you're just stealing.
No.
You're not facing.
Well, that's my argument. You know, certain people say, you know, I work very close or whatever. I'm comfortable working close. If you're taking a picture of my kid and you're across the street, I might get offended. But if you come right up and you take the picture, hey, at least
exactly
you've done it.
You're making yourself obvious. Yeah. You're not hiding, and you're not. You're right. Here I am. Yeah. Makes sense.
It's not what lens you use, it's who you are and how you do it. I'm not a thief, you know, I'm blunt. You ask me my opinion on something, and it may not be what you want to hear, but since you asked me, I'm going to tell you. I mean, if it's pertinent, you know, if it's meaningless, then I don't care. I'm not looking to have an argument with somebody because I don't have a very long fuse.
Any one piece of advice you'd give to any of our listeners who have not perhaps gone out and just done street photography and are thinking about doing it? What's that one piece of advice? We probably even mentioned it already, but...
You know, everybody now is a street photographer, and it makes me almost laugh.
Point taken.
I mean, you're not a street photographer. I'm a street photographer, and there are other street photographers in the world, but just because you're out in the street, that doesn't make you a street photographer.
Well, security cameras are the same thing. They're out there photographing the streets, but they're just a box.
No, but that's the other point about the faces that was so amazing for me. These guys that did some of the greatest pictures in the history of photography had no pretense of being an artist. That was their job. So now, how does that...
You have mugshots.
No, but I mean, no, seriously. You know, of course you got these people at an optimum moment. Nobody wants to go to jail. Nobody wants to be caught. You know, they might be f***ed up, whatever, okay? But the thing is, they're some of the greatest pictures to me in the history of photography. And, you know, this other argument about subjective photography and objective, that's bullshit, okay? There's no objective photography. Everybody picks who they're going to photograph, where they're going to stand, what kind of light. I mean,
so, Bruce, you studied acting
very
early
little,
on.
Very little. Yeah.
Was there anything from that?
Yeah, what I learned is With my Brooklyn accent, I can't do Shakespeare.
You're from Brooklyn?
That's what I learned.
But nothing
you know?
carried over into making pictures of people?
No, my life carried over, you know. Like I said, you can learn something in school, but it's where you come from. And I just read a very interesting book by Amos Oz. And near the end of the book, and I'm going to paraphrase, of course, he's discussing, you know, he's a kid. He's 16 years old. He changed his name. He moved to a kibbutz, you know. He was very bright, and he comes from a bright family, you know, well-educated. Like his father spoke 12 languages, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Serious, okay. He's sitting in the kibbutz, and he's saying, wait, I'm not in Paris, I'm not in Milan, I'm not, you know, any of those places. So what can I write about? And then he read, it's Sherwood Anderson, wrote a book called Winesburg, Ohio.
Yep.
And he read that, and it opened up this door to him to say, wait a second, I can live anywhere. Look at that lady there. She's got a wig on her head. She thinks she's, you know what I mean? Well, what he's saying is the good artists write about where they come from.
Oh, yeah.
Who they are.
Exactly.
You can't learn that. I was on a TV show in Italy, and one of the main hosts was a woman. I think she was German or Swiss. Hope she's not listening, but who cares? I'm not mentioning her name. She's German or Swiss, and, you know, very elegant, pretty. And she learned all her photography at school in London. I said, that's very good. I said, too bad. You know?
My condolences.
I think it has to, what you
inside.
breathe, it goes out, okay?
So here's a question for you. You said that there were several times in your life when you took breaks because of drugs or whatever.
Or not enough money.
Right. When you would come back to photography,
Always a little
would
change, but very minute.
How so, though? Can you
It
describe
might be I take a little different angle, or I get a little closer, or what have you. And it brings up an interesting subject to me anyway. I lost all these rolls of film, and I know I lost them because I have some of the contacts. Where's the negative, okay? So, you know, that really upset me, okay? But, you know, you have to live through it. But the point being, I did the book on New York, then I did a book called Lost and Found. I didn't miss any of the iconic pictures, okay, of New York. In other words, none of them would be as good as my best New York pictures that were in Facing New York, or A Beautiful Catastrophe. But I missed some good pictures. So the only thing I could think of, I was more into using available light to using flash. So they weren't dramatic. You know, so there's always changes. And I also started flash later than I did. And I started it earlier, but I wasn't happy with what I was doing.
Did you change your approach to...
Well, obviously, if I see something that's not working, I change my approach. That's what separates the men from the boys.
Right.
I don't get defeated because this is what I want to do. So I'll figure out a way how to do it. You know, like, for example, when I was 12, I wanted to be a vet because I liked animals. But you could offer me $1 million if, you know, I get an A in a science subject. It wasn't going to happen. I mean, I had no interest. You know, I didn't understand it. I have no interest. So, you know, you can't be a vet. Now, I watched a lot of movies. You know, I live in Brooklyn, in a big city. You know, you talk with your hands and everything. So, okay, I quit college. I'm going to study acting. Okay. But the only reason I took up photography was because of the movie Blow Up. Not because I liked it. I didn't like it, okay? But the thing is, it was in the air. So I figured I'll take it. The only thing I'd ever done for myself was play sports. What happened was, when I went into the darkroom of visual arts, and I made my prints, and I said, holy shit, I did this, I did it. And I was hooked. And I guess it kept me alive, you know, through all my bad periods, you know?
Something I want to just come back to a little bit is that you started off shooting black and white originally. I learned on a 4x5 view camera, black and white, couldn't touch a 35 millimeter camera for the first year we were in school. So I learned black and white, I learned to compose, and then when I started shooting for a living, everything was color. So I was a Kodachrome guy for 1 million years. Past 4 or 5 years, I've gone back into black and white, sometimes exclusively, and I found it to be just exhilarating to be able to strip away colors and take things down to their basics, which is what a lot of black and white is. You're just dealing with tonality and composition. What's your experience been of going from monochrome to color?
It's going to be much different than yours because, you see, you did things that I never chose to do.
Right.
Okay, first of all, I wouldn't have shot color, period. Secondly, I wouldn't shoot it for a living. If you're a Jew from Brooklyn and I'm a Jew from Brooklyn, we're two different kinds of Jews. No, but seriously, no. And that's what I'm saying. For me, my ex-wife and my present wife would say, you're not getting those jobs because you don't shoot color.
And why aren't you shooting weddings?
No,
we don't go there.
We don't go weddings. No.
Oh, I got that one. But that's another story. Okay, go ahead.
No, but the thing is, for me, I had made those choices, and I'm prepared to live with it, okay? And it's funny, even though I work for all these large clients and everything, I don't get a ton of jobs, and I see the pictures that these people use, and my pictures are a lot better. And I can do a lot better. And I can put out 36 pictures in 3 hours, in a fashion shoot. I do. I just did in Israel. We did 37 pictures in 6 hours. I do it. I'm fast. I think fast. I work fast. Like a guy came up yesterday who was going to be at the lecture day. He assisted me at Balenciaga. He said, I don't know how you did it. You got off the plane. And I have jet lag, I was 75 at the time. Now I'm 76. But he said, you went out there that night and you worked for 4 hours. You didn't fucking sit down. Because I'm a pro. I'm going to get it done. Okay? And that's all there is to it. And like I had said to you previously, Allan, is that I choose how I want to do my subject. If I'm working on a job, I can't always do that, okay?
Right.
But I choose, like before career, I said black and white. Before the bikers, I said color. I said small camera. I say large camera, okay? Like I did a whole essay on hookers who do heroin. Did you see that book?
No, I have not.
Ah, that's your bad. It's called Only God Can Judge Me. Because there was a girl that had a tattoo that said, Only God Can Judge Me. And I interviewed the ladies, mostly shot in Miami, in Overtown. That I knew I'm doing in color. But you see, everything is different. The farm boys and farm girls are all faces.
Right.
The hookers, I did some faces, but they're mostly waist up. So it's a visual medium. It's visual. You can't put your head through the wall. I'm doing faces, so I'm going to do your face. No. If it's a detail, if it's waist up, you got to see that, though.
Yeah.
But you have to be visual to see that, okay? It's like amazing. There's a period, I don't go to shows much any longer because we live in Beacon, and I just don't do it. I don't look at books really much any longer. But everybody was shooting the same way, So it didn't matter. Only the subject varied. And to me, where's the talent? I worked hard to have an individual style, but that individual style is me.
Right.
I mean, I have a lot of imitators, and I sometimes I smile because, like, in the fashion world, you see people, they photograph a face, but yet they have the girl's nose up, and you see a nose hairs. Who wants to see a nose hairs? I learned by looking, okay? And I looked at magazines, I looked at books. I learned what I was interested in. And then, since I never would call anybody and ask them what camera they used or what lens or whatever, I would try to figure out what lens they used, where they stood, and then I would go out and try and do that if the situation presented itself.
I want to go back to something a little while ago. You mentioned sort of kiddingly that I don't shoot murders, but that immediately made me think of Ouija.
No, let me tell you something. I've been dying to shoot murders for 30 years. I mean, if you can get me in, I'll do it because I have a way I want to do it, or violent acts that would be very beautiful because to me, just because something is a disaster, that doesn't mean that there isn't beauty in it.
Well, what you need a 1952 Buick with a police scanner in the trunk.
Exactly.
I'm telling you, that's the secret.
No, but then you get there and then they kill you. The cops kill you. No, and also in this country, you can't even publish those because, you're getting on some. So I'll do it in another country. So if you're better at me, I don't mind it. If you can put it together, I'll pay you.
I'll get on that.
No, I'm serious because I want to do the things I want to do, and that's something I want to do for 30 years. And I have the idea in my head. And I traveled to some country, but it fell through, so I like to do what I like to do.
Interesting. Well, any other projects on the horizon that you'd like to do aside from, murder photography? Just curious, is there anything out there that has been there? Is there anything that's been out there for a while that you say, I really hope I can get to that before the days are over?
Or countries that...
Or countries, anything.
Well, there's plenty of countries. I mean, see, the problem is you have to be careful to not, what do they say, go over someone else's footsteps.
Yeah.
Right.
So if you see interesting things somewhere and they did a pretty good job, you have to be very careful.
Yeah, but what hasn't been done already? Everything has been done. Seriously.
I'm talking about when it falls in my path.
Okay.
I'm not talking about everything's been done, okay? You can do gypsies. How many people have done gypsies? How many have done it well?
Ooh, you know, I never thought about that. Thank you. And you just gave me a good idea. I'm going to do a book on gypsies. Yeah. Actually, I've seen several very good ones. I'm not going to attempt it, like you just said. I've seen some very good books that I could not do.
But I don't care if you did a good one. I believe I can do as good or better.
But I don't have a vision in my head for gypsies, so therefore I'm not going to say that. There's nothing
No,
I
but
have
I have visions, you know, not religious, like Joan of Arc, right? She had visions, right? I don't want to get burned at the stake.
Oh, yeah. I just saw that film a couple of weeks ago.
It was on television, wasn't it?
No, it was at the World Financial Center. They did a silent film of Joan of Arc with a
You
live
mean,
orchestra.
the Dreyer film?
Yes.
Yeah.
It was phenomenal.
See, it's like fighting. You know, people think I can't fight, but I can fight very well. But my knowledge is like that. You know, I know more than, you know, someone who didn't graduate college should know. But, you know, is there anything else?
Bruce Gilden, absolute pleasure speaking to you. And as I said, I was kind of antsy about this because your photographs have terrified me in the past. It is wonderful speaking to you and feeling so much better about your work and having a better understanding of it.
One last thing.
Sure.
My daughter actually sent it to us. There was some young kid in his 20s or something that started off a piece on me. And my wife said, don't get mad at the beginning. He says, I really can't stand Bruce Gilden's photographs. And that's his right, okay? I'm more than glad to debate him. I'm not trying to convince someone to like my pictures, but I think, people judge my pictures for all the wrong reasons, okay? It's because of who they are, like you can't sit in a chair and you tell me what goes on in the street. No. So what happened by the end, he looked at several of my videos or something, and he said, I understand Bruce now, and I really like his pictures. So I think you just have to, but I think...
You're an acquired taste.
No, but I think I have a gift. And my gift is that I'm very perceptive and, the things I see right away, okay? I can see when someone's full of shit and when someone isn't, okay? In their pictures.
Well, I could tell you what this person told you. I happen to agree because, as I said earlier, right up front, that, your pictures troubled me in many ways, a lot of your photographs. I watched several of the interviews on YouTube, and I listened to you, and now having understand where you're coming from, and the fact that you come from Brooklyn, and that says a lot too, right there. I now have an appreciation of what you're doing, and I'm not going to get the shakes or get crazy when I look at the pictures.
But I want to ask you a question.
Go ahead.
Is that necessary? It's a visual thing. To me, when I look at something, I don't ask if the person is this or that, or a woman or a man, or 80 or 20. I like it or I don't, okay? I don't, when you start giving me all your history, anyone can make up their own history. I don't, okay? But, just because you said it, does that make it true? I mean,
but whatever you said clicked with me and enabled me to process your photographs the way they should be processed.
Okay. If it works for you.
For whatever that's worth.
Yeah. It provides context.
Yeah, that's it. And by the way, we want to talk about irony. Here we're doing an audio podcast on a visual subject. So here we are. We're talking about photographs. At the end of the day, that's all we're doing. We're not looking at them.
No, I agree with you. And that's why, what I'll say in the lecture here is that I hope people look at my picture and make a little story up. Because that's what I do. The stories,
Gotcha.
I see that guy. Like there's one Lefty Louie guy wearing a sharkskin suit. He looks like he's in the 80s and he's walking like from 1952 with a white tie. He's just like walked out of some film noir. And that's it. Film noir, I'm done.
That's so great.
Thank you.
Bruce Gilden, thank you for joining us. Have a great lecture.
Thank you. Ooh. How about a great lunch?
Yes.
Well, you wore me out, Allan.
Okay, that's a wrap of our time with this master of street photography. We'd like to thank Bruce Gilden for speaking with us, as well as all of our colleagues at B&H who put together another wonderful Depth of Field conference. And if you like what you heard today, subscribe to the B&H Photo Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find us on the B&H Explorer blog and on the B&H Photography Podcast Facebook group, where you can share your favorite photos and comments about the show. I'm your host, Allan Weitz. Jill Waterman is our senior creative producer. Episodes are recorded, mixed, and edited by technical producer Mike Weinstein. Our executive producer is Jeremy Weiss, and our editorial director is Sean Steiner. On behalf of all of us on the show, thank you oh so much for tuning in today.
Thanks to Pelican for sponsoring this week's episode.